This episode of the GameOverGreggy Show is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone like I do with #CookingWithGreggy. Blue Apron achieves this by supporting a more sustainable food system, setting the highest standards for ingredients, and building a community of home chefs. Want to know about the upcoming meals? You got it, Jack. Cashew chicken stir fry with tango mandarins and jasmine rice, Sicilian cauliflower pizza and fresh mozzarella and oregano, and more. I'm super excited about these foods, Kevin. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Greggy. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. That's blueapron.com/Greggy. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Right? The protests are a great first step, but are the protests like the only thing that I think about is like, what do people really give a shit about in this country, right? Yes, we care about social issues, but at the end of the day, what do we really care about? Basically our wallets. How do we take all this energy and push it over to something that's actually going to affect people's at the bottom line, right? And then you'll start seeing some change. Right? For instance, if the protests had shut down the airports, holy shit, that probably would have caused something, right? But they didn't.
But I mean,
I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying that's a possibility. But if United Airlines couldn't sell a ticket and couldn't get a person on the plane, someone somewhere would have been like, this has to change right now.
And I mean, but I think that is eventually where protest goes. We've seen many times throughout history that protests do end up with change for the in a positive way and like helping our country become more what our country should be and how you should treat people morally, going back to all that stuff. I think a big problem with protests is it's really, really easy to look at it and be like, well, what's this actually doing? I mean, I'm even guilty of it myself, where it's like when people are protesting and they shut down BART, it's a fucking annoyance to me. I can't get to work. I have to replan my day. I have to do all this stuff. And here I am, doesn't affect me, whatever the hell they're marching for at that moment. So it's easy to just be like, why the fuck are they doing this? They're disrupting all this shit for the rest of us and not doing anything. But it's getting coverage on the news. It's people are understanding that there is a cause that people are fighting for. I think it's the same argument as talking about advertisement. Why do people pay money for ads? Like, I look at commercials and I've never bought something for commercials. Well, obviously it's doing something because commercials are a thing that will forever exist. And even though you think that you're better than it, there's millions and millions and millions of other people out there that are like, oh shit, maybe I should buy this fucking vacuum or whatever the hell it is. And I think with protests, it's the same thing where it's like, yeah, maybe to us, it's like, it's an annoyance or we're like, what are you actually getting out of this? But it's someone else now knows about whatever cause it is. And I think that it's not that they're going to do anything, but I think that it does reach a point where hopefully the right person finds out and has a plan of action.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The protest, I mean, for me, in this instance of the immigration ban or whatever, the immigration executive order, right? The part for me where it made sense and why I wanted to be involved in all these different things was when they're lined up and then the detainees, there's people who are landing finally are coming out and they're getting, clapping or whatever, and people have food for them, or see the at O'Hare all the attorneys in McDonald's lined up, doing this, filing writs, doing all these different things, and then seeing that the same way too of like attorneys with signs like if you know someone who's been detained, come here and help. Like that's where it's like doing it. Not to mention it's getting coverage, sure, but then you walk that fine line of I don't think and like this is my own naivete, I guess, of protests. Like I'm not seeing the protests. I guess it's getting more people involved, right? I was super motivated and out trying to figure out what to do and how to help kind of thing. But I mean, the other side, you're not going to win over with a protest.
That's my only criticism of it, right? Is that, yes, you're absolutely right. On the left side, it gives everyone hope. On the right side, it galvanizes them against the left. It says, look at all these people who are disrupting society for this thing. And again, I'm playing extremes right now for just being devil's advocate.
Well, that's
I absolutely
what it is,
agree with
though.
you. Like, yes, it's important to put your energy someplace. I'm just saying, like, yeah, like to Colin's earlier point, like I look at these protests and I'm like, I'm 100% for them. I think people should absolutely get out there and speak their mind. But I do see that rift every time I see that big, like the women's march. You just start to see that rift from the right to the left keep opening more and giving people the opportunity to say, look at these people, like what a waste of energy, right? You even have that sentiment mirrored by our president, who's like, that's exactly what he said in his tweet, waste of energy. Like, couldn't these people do something else?
Sad.
Like. And it's like, and then all it takes is him to say that, and then every single person that voted for him was like, "Fuck yeah, this guy's right." And
but
it's like,
it's-
Jesus, this is not working. It's not working.
It's ridiculous to think that anything in our life is anything but extremes. If you're not saying something that's either this or that, and you do say something in the middle, they're only going to hear the this or the that. The nuance in it, I do not believe that the majority of people in the world have the ability to have the nuance of a conversation. I think that people,
They want the soundbite.
you guys suck Sony's dick. I get jizzed on by Nintendo.
You do.
I can't have my opinion. I can't say
I've seen that
I'm
picture
excited
of
for
you,
the Switch, but I don't like this, and this. And I thought
Right.
the conference was bad. I'm excited for this game. All of a sudden, it's like Tim's a fucking fanboy. You know.
Yeah.
Same things with you guys with all the PlayStation stuff.
Yeah,
It's like,
and with everything else too, and I agree with you, and that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we have to, that's what I was trying to say, is the people in the comments who reacted the way they did to a reasonable conversation, you are the problem. You are the problem. And you can either fucking own it or not own it. I'm not saying that what people feel is right or wrong. What I'm saying is the extremes are the wrong way to go about it. It never fucking works in a positive way, ever. Name me one fucking example in history where a far extreme on the right or left worked. I'll wait. Because we're not going to find it. What, the Soviet Union? Nazi Germany? Yeah, great left, and far right examples of two collapsing piece of shit countries, right? We don't get anywhere by the further you are to this direction or that direction, the more people are disassociated with what you say. And I don't want to be in that space because I don't believe that most people are in that space. Whether or not they can comprehend it, that's up to them. But I'm not going to sit here and act like the way we talk to each other is normal. It's not. And I'm not going to sit here and act like every time Donald Trump breathes, people should be in the streets, because they shouldn't be. Because that diminishes from the protests that really matter. The immigration protests were meaningful and really meant something. And they were targeted, and they were important, and they had a message. Go out to when people were protesting when he was inaugurated, ask 10 people what they were upset about, you get 10 different answers. That's not a protest. That's a fucking baby's fit. And if you don't have a fucking message when you go out into the streets to protest, you might as well not protest. If you're protesting 10 different things, you're not going to get any of them.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate too, because you saw a lot of that, right? You saw a lot of that far right people taking all those signs and saying, "Look at how immature these people are," and you'd show, and all it takes is for you to take pictures of 10 different signs and put them up, and some of them are radical, and some of them are on message, and some of them are completely crazy, and then boom, it's like it's very easy to discredit the entire movement, and that's sad. But you're absolutely right. Like like organizing and going to the airports, genius concept.
I mean, think about it, guys. Like, and this is why everyone's talking to me like, well, I say one positive thing about Trump, I say one positive thing about the left, or you get it. I get it from all sides. I don't think people appreciate that, by the way. Like, I just get it from everybody. The Trump supporters hate me. The liberals everyone hates me, right? Because I'm just in the middle saying, like, what are you doing? What is the message? If you want to protest, the immigration protest was a great example. You had a target. The target was the airports. The target was the streets. The reason was this unconstitutional ban on people that have every legal right to be here. That is a message. Move forth and fucking make something happen of it, and you did. Look at Occupy Wall Street, which we've referenced many times.
Dynamite movement.
No message.
Oh, my apologies.
A fucking joke of a movement.
Right.
That went to Zuccotti Park and other places in Oakland and all sorts of other places.
No one knows. No one knows.
They
It was happening
accomplished
for so long.
They accomplished Nick, I want to be very clear about this. They accomplished nothing.
But all those
Not
people, all those people
one
went to
thing.
jail.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you went to Zuccotti Park, as Greg and I had walked right through the fucking protest, you just see, no one has any idea why they're even there.
Right.
They're just angry. And that's fine. That's fine to be angry. It's like the people that go to the G20 and just fucking protest in all the cities and just destroy things, whatever, when in Seattle or New York or London or whatever it happens to be. Protest is a American right, and we should get out there and do it. When people are like, I'm out there protesting like they were protesting civil rights in the 60s, I'm like, no, you're not. Those people were organized. They were smart. They stuck to it for many years, and they got exactly what they wanted after terrible things happened to some of their leaders. They wouldn't, there were some separate movements within the larger movement. They survived all of that and persevered and got exactly what they wanted. In 1968, anti-war liberals protested in Chicago at the DNC, destroyed the fucking city, and Nixon became president because people don't like that kind of protest. And it's turning into that kind of protest. People are like, oh, the revolutionaries that you admire so much protested, and the Tea Party was a protest. I'm like, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Don't talk about things you don't understand. You know, the embryo of the revolution began in the 1750s and early 1760s after the French and Indian War, after a number of taxation policies were passed, after they tried to extend a hand in friendship to England over many years, after the British came in and shot people in Boston. Then 3 years after that, after all recourse, they started throwing shit into the harbor and it got violent. You know? People need to understand what they're doing and what it means and the historical balance between anger and directive and opportunity and objective. If people are that angry about this, and they have every right to be angry about some of the things that Donald Trump says and does, and I would never dispute that. And I was fucking livid as my Facebook post saw when I saw that executive order. I'm like, this is insane. This is inappropriate. This is immoral. This isn't who we are. We shouldn't stand behind this. That was my message. When you're in the street about every single thing that happens, people are going to stop listening. And if this continues to happen and the status quo is kept and this is the worst it gets, and I don't know if it's going to get worse than that, then how long will Donald Trump be in office? For 4 years at least. You know, that's the answer to the question that we asked, that was posed at the beginning of the topic. So we have to, you know, I appreciate all sides of it, but you have to just talk to each other. This isn't okay. This isn't all right. You know, people were up, you know, I was so glad to see people at the airport over immigration. That was a great thing. No one seemed that upset about the fact that our Fourth Amendment rights have been infringed for 16 years at the airport. Didn't see anyone packing in there either for that. It's very selective, the Constitution suddenly is very important. The Constitution wasn't very important when the Patriot Act happened. The Constitution wasn't very important when our Fourth Amendment rights were suspended at airports and other places. The Constitution wasn't this when the executive, whether it's Bush, Obama, or now Trump, are just unilaterally bombing places around the world without Congress's consent. No one cares about the Constitution then. You know, it's like,
this is my problem with it, is the fact of, you know, you're saying we got to find the middle and come together again and figure out how to talk to each other again and all these different things. Like, it's going to get much worse, like much, much, much fucking worse. And then what's going to happen is, and I know I've said something to this effect before, and I'm not hoping or wishing for this to be very clear, but there will have to be another 9/11 for everyone to dial it back and be like, we're all American. We got to come together. This is the thing. Because right now, that's the problem. You have half the country, and half politically leaning the country saying Donald Trump's the problem, and half the country saying he's the answer. And that's why there's never going to be common ground for these people.
Yeah, I really hope that's not the case. And let me be clear, I don't want anyone, we are in no way, shape, or form telling people to go out there and do violence in any way at all. And these protests have been peaceful up until this point, and that's the way they should remain. All I'm saying is that I wish we had, I guess on some level, I just wish we had a counterbalance to all this, right? I wish we had an organization out there like the ACLU that was like someone out there that we could put funds toward, that we could put energy toward, that we could donate time toward, that could actually be as outspoken an advocate toward rights as Donald Trump is on the other side of that, right? A person that we could start grooming now to run against him in, when's the next president? 2020. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. I just don't see that happening. And so my only concern is that, yes, while all these things matter and all these and people should absolutely go out there and voice their opinion, I just don't see any of this mattering 4 years from now when he gets reelected. And that's my big fear, is that I don't think that the tactics that we have implemented up to this point clearly aren't working, right? He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. He's just going to keep doing these executive orders and keep pulling his weight in Washington and throwing it around. So we need to, like, what's the definition of insanity, right? Is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We are doing that right now. We are all going to go on Twitter right now and rage against something else. It's not working. So while I do agree the protests are very, very important, they are a key component of it, like Colin was saying, that movement had a leader. That movement had someone that we revere to this day. That movement had someone that could, you know, the civil rights movement had someone that you could rally behind. And probably in this day and age, if Martin Luther King had been that influential, he would have run for president, and we probably would have voted for him, right? So all I'm saying is,
you need time for that leader to come up, and I think that's kind of what I'm saying.
Absolutely,
is like,
absolutely.
Like,
that's
I feel
what I'm
like
saying. That's why I'm saying now
we need that because the problem is, like, with any of the successful movements we've seen, like the civil rights movement, I guarantee you could have found 10 different signs and wrote an article about how they're not united either. Like, it's easy to look back on it and be like, well, that worked because they were united. It's like, no, they were just as scattered as we are now. It's just like right now we don't have that one thing to look at and be like, this is the Batman that we can stand behind.
That's basically, you're right.
We
basically need Batman. And again, let me be clear. Like, I'm not silly enough or stupid enough to think that any sort of real change like what I'm talking about happens overnight. It doesn't. this situation we've had with Trump did not happen overnight, whether you want to think about it or not. Like, people didn't just all of a sudden tune in on election day like, oh, what's happening? That happened over the course of 2 years. That happened over the course of, actually, if you want to go back farther, multiple years, multiple decades. He is a result of everything that has come before him. He is not some random phantom that's come out of nowhere. He's a result of our societies either not caring or being angry or and being misdirected with that. So I know it's going to take time. And yes, these protests and everyone, for lack of a better thing to do, going out there and sharing your opinion and showing support for a progressive movement is incredibly important. I'm just saying we need to be open to whenever the next new tactic comes, everyone needs to help support that as well and not just stay glued to your phone and just tweet occasionally and retweet someone's and again, I'm the worst offender of this. I didn't go to the protests. I didn't think it was, I didn't take time out of my schedule to go down to SFO or to fly down to LAX and, well, I guess I couldn't fly now, but drive down to LAX and I guess I could still fly. Yeah, it is.
That would be awesome though if you're like I'm going to this airport protest. You go to SFO, you fly to LAX.
The last thing that I want to say and that I really feel is that this with us or against us thing is destructive. I'm with neither of you, right? Like sure. I'm literally with neither side. I don't want anything to do with the Republican Party that Trump controls or Donald Trump himself. And I don't want anything to do with the far left people in this country either, because I don't think they have the answer either. And I want to let people know that that's an okay place to be. And I think that that's the most responsible place to be. A lot of the people out there that are complaining about the us versus them thing, you're part of the problem. And there is a large disaffected group of people like me that want a different way forward. That is going to be the victorious. That's why I'm really intrigued about a real third party in the next 4 or 8 years, because people really, the Republican Party is broken. I knew that because I worship that party. See, a lot of people, I'm glad a lot of people are involved and engaged for the first time, right? But they lack historical insight. You can't just learn about things by reading on them for 5 minutes in Wikipedia. You can't just think you absorb what has been happening in this country for politically tuned in people for many years now. And you're right. The fact is that we got to this point through division and through a politicization and a political polarization that we have not seen since the 1850s and the 1860s in the United States, and maybe the 1870s during Reconstruction. And we have to harness that power and pull it back from the abyss and say, is there a more positive and constructive way forward that excludes the extremes on both sides and actually amasses a great middle group that represents the moderate to normal sections of the Democratic Party and the moderate to normal sections of the Republican Party and the independents? That is the normal group of people.
How do we get that candidate, right? The Donald Trump of not for lack of a better term, the Libertarian Party or the middle party, right? The person who is the moderate, who can go up there and still speak his mind and still be every bit as charismatic as Donald Trump, but doesn't feel that he needs to run on either side of the first parties, right?
It's going to be.
How does that even work?
It's going to have to be an independently wealthy person.
It's got to be Kanye, right?
And I don't think it's going to be Kanye, but someone like it sounds funny to say, but Zuckerberg is one of the people that could, I'm not saying I want Mark Zuckerberg to win, but Mark Zuckerberg apparently has significant political aspirations.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem is he's playing against Trump and he's not winning.
No,
he chew him apart in any debate.
Maybe not. I mean, the point is that there are people in the wings of Michael Bloomberg. It's going to unfortunately require a moneyed person to be able to do that because they're going to be outside of the apparatus.
But then, do you feel that person goes 4 years from now, or do you feel like that person goes, okay, let's be honest, my best shot at winning is 8 years from now?
I think it depends on the strategist you talk about. There might be a strategist that recommends that since there's an incumbent, that there are fewer people to really technically go against on the outside during 2020, while in 2024 there shouldn't be an incumbent, and so it's going to be a fucking free for all. If we make it that far, the situation as it stands though is untenable, and I am just so sick of reading about how bad everyone is and how every Trump supporter is this and every Clinton supporter is this, and it's just not true. Like, there is gray area and there is nuance, and if people aren't smart enough or intelligent enough or able to see that, that's their problem, but it doesn't mean that it does not exist. Like, the appropriate reaction to Trump is not the opposite polar extreme of Trump. It's not. And reasonable people will get us to a reasonable place, and unreasonable people will get us to an unreasonable place. Look at what unreasonable people in unreasonable positions got us to now. It's before your own eyes. And so I just want people to consider that when I see someone like the 2064 read-only memories guys, what you're talking about in college, right? When I see that tweet and they're like, if you supported Trump, go fuck yourself. Don't play our game. And I'm like, well, I didn't vote for Trump, but I find what you just said completely distasteful. I know Trump supporters. They're good people. The Trump supporters I know, they're very good people. And I might not agree with the man and I might not agree with the policies, but those are my people. And I'm not going to sit here and act like you can talk to them about like that and that's going to be okay with me. It's not. It's just not.
Yeah.
And this comes as a person from me that has voted for both Democrats and Republicans. People should be allowed to vote their conscience. People should be allowed to be wrong about voting their conscience too. And people should be allowed to say like, I don't agree with everything this person does, but this specific thing, this taxation policy, well, this benefits me, or this policy benefits me, or whatever. Because if you want to, as I said many times, you want to take it to that logic, that purity test logic to its conclusion. If you voted for Bill Clinton, you were against gay marriage, you were against a gay person's right to openly serve in the military, and you own that apparently. Even though you voted for Bill Clinton because you might have wanted Medicare for all, even though you voted for Bill Clinton because he had a good jobs message or a good tax message. No, I'm sorry. Bill Clinton, when he ran in 1996, was for the Defense of Marriage Act. So were you. Is that really the game we want to play with each other? Is that really the game we want to play with each other?
Yeah, I feel like, I think, obviously people out there listening or watching this, especially if on YouTube, when you're about to leave a comment, I feel like this is where we can step up and say, look, I know people out there are going to want to leave comments on this. This is obviously this is a very passionate subject matter that we're talking about. When you're going to go on, if you're going to reply to someone, do me a favor. Take 1 second, just 1 second before you post that reply and think about what that reply is and think about if there's a more constructive, more productive way of saying that and then post it. That's all I'm asking. And I think that ultimately all the best friends out there, I think are really, really good at that as far as the hardcore best friends are concerned. But that's what I want people to at least try for us. If you're a fan of this, if you've ever been a fan of anything we've ever done in the past, just take 1 second before you comment or before you reply to someone's comment. Remember that these are human beings on the other side of that. And try to have as much respect for that person as possible, even if you vehemently disagree with what they just said, because that to me is what we need.
I agree. I think it's a great message, and I would go forward with this. There is a third way forward, and a fourth way, and a fifth way, and a sixth way. There aren't two ways. There isn't two ways forward. It is not Clinton or Trump. It is not Democrat or Republican. It is not liberal or conservative. There is a bunch of different permutations of those policies and those platforms that we can find salvation in, and it is by finding and delving into that gray area that we will solve these problems. But I am not comfortable being in a country or being amongst people that want to divide and conquer. Like, it is not who we are. And if that's the way we want to be, we might as well have a constitutional convention now. We might as well let a bunch of states go. And we might as well redraw the lines and found a few new countries with only people you agree with, so that you're very comfortable in your little alcove in San Francisco. You're very comfortable in your little alcove in Manhattan. I don't want to live that life.
California and New York in the same part of the map, though. I just understand how that works geographically.
You don't. They would have to be different countries. But the point is that
it sucks.
The point is that
friends though.
There is a different way, and I am not going to participate in this vitriolic political game anymore. Like, I'm going to continue to speak from the middle for people in the middle, and if people have a problem with that from both sides and they want to aim at me, go the fuck ahead. But
respectfully.
But just that's fine. But just understand that, like, the definition of insanity, man.
I know.
You're not going to get a different outcome. And I don't like Donald Trump, but I will again, policy by policy, place by place. And will he get impeached? Maybe. I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Why don't you see that happening?
Because we didn't impeach.
Because it's a Republican Congress.
Yeah.
And it's at state and local levels that these problems are going to be fixed. If Democrats really want to way forward, if liberalism really wants to way forward, then you better start at the beginning, man. Because Democrats and liberals were wiped the fuck out in terms of state and local, the state legislatures, governorships, or whatever. It's a total Republican country right now, and with little places like this that make you feel like you're not in a very Republican place, and it's just not the case. I don't think we should be that far to the right either. Let's do something about it. Let's be productive. And if people want to point at me in 2 years when the Congress burns down like the Reichstag in 1932 or 1933, and very Hitler-like Trump takes power and we delve into a world war because of it, then you can say I told you so to me. But in the meantime, I will have been proud to have tried to stand in the middle and try to get everyone to come together so that we can move forward as a massive unit in which we are far more powerful than divided. Because I do not think it is tenable for half of us to feel one way, half of us to feel the other way, and we just move forward as if we are one country, because we're not in that case.
I agree.
Food for thought.
That's the problem. Too divided, Tim. Too divided.